Welcome to a fantastic edition of Rebellion's educational series. I'm here with brilliant historical mind, Ryan Szimanski. I've gotten to know him over the last few months, and I've been so impressed with his knowledge. He's the curator of the Battleship New Jersey, one of my heroes, a beautiful battleship next to Philadelphia. Ryan, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Alex.
The pleasure's all mine. And by the way, everybody should check out, Ryan has this amazing YouTube channel with fantastic videos, and I absolutely adore them. And so please check out Ryan's Battleship New Jersey YouTube channel when you're done with this video. But today we're going to talk about maintaining historic ships, because Ryan has experience maintaining some very old vessels. And Ryan also has written on the Ship of Theseus. Can you tell us about your article first on the Ship of Theseus?
Yeah, so it was a short article that I had published in the Historic Naval Ships Association's quarterly publication called Anchor Watch. That would have been, I might have still been in college at the time. If not, I was a recent graduate. So it was fairly early in my career. But it always amazed me, these philosophers talking about the Ship of Theseus as if it were a real thing. So it makes me think that Athens preserved the Ship of Theseus, which would make that the first museum ship in history. We always talk about museum ships being a relatively new thing. The first permanent museum ship to open in this country is the battleship Texas in 1948. But we're talking about a ship here that, if it is in fact real and not legendary, would have been preserved hundreds of years BC.
No, most signs point to the fact that it probably was a real ship that was on display. Pericles, talks about it in some of his letters. So, odds are it was. But the point is, this 600-year-old ship, which had the wood replaced multiple times, was not the same specific ship that fought in these famous battles. So then, do we consider what is the ship that was in these battles, and does that ship even exist anymore? It becomes a philosophical point.
Exactly, and authenticity is something that museum ships still struggle with today. Obviously, we do not get a complete ship when the Navy donates a ship, but we're trying to give our visitors the most authentic experience possible. So when a ship is decommissioned, it stays in a reserve fleet for a period of time usually, and so active Navy ships strip the parts off of that vessel that they need. So when it comes to the museum, we're missing stuff. It's not a complete ship. It doesn't look like the crew just walked off. And so we've got to go back and find these parts from places. Last week, the Navy NAVSEA hosted an open house on 5 of the Perry-class frigates at the Philadelphia Navy Yard. So myself and other museum professionals were allowed to go onto those ships and take parts off to replace parts missing on our own ships. Now, obviously, those parts we replace are not the same ones that were used on here in World War II. They're the same sort of thing, but it's not the exact same piece. So is it authentic? Does it make the ship more real?
I mean, transferring to art, Vincent van Gogh's and Matisse's Impressionist works are often updated by the museum. It's something that's done quite often. So if you update art, does that art not become authentic also? And so, how do you preserve things from hundreds and thousands of years ago? And, how real can you keep it? You just have to, I guess, aim for when you dealt with Constellation in Baltimore Harbor, how would you replace wooden items? Was there a process there?
So my experience with Constellation, by the time I started working there, the ship was pretty well outfitted. The museum didn't really take on any major wooden projects. My mentor, Paul Cora, did take on a project to restore the ship's stove, of which there was a wooden replica there, and he did a ton of research to make a more realistic metal fabricated replica. And obviously it wasn't built in the same cast iron and riveted method as the original stove, but it looked authentic. And he had nothing to go by except some blueprints of the ship that showed the footprint of it. And Constitution has a good example that's a much older period. And Victory has a good example that is contemporary, but a completely different navy for a much larger ship.
Why are these ships kept in the water? Does it make more sense, so many viewers wonder, to keep them on land?
So my big argument for keeping a ship in water is the hull is designed for the pressure of the water to hold it together. So water is pushing up from the bottom, gravity, and it is pushing in from the sides. If you put a ship on dry land, well, then gravity is pushing down and the force of the land is pushing up, but there's nothing pushing in the sides. So that ship will start to slowly pancake over time and the sides will bulge out.
That's a good point. Now, gravity will take hold there. So how many years, for instance, can a battleship New Jersey stay then in the water? 150, 20? I mean, how often will it need to come out of the water for a refit?
Awesome question. With an active duty vessel, you would do this, every 2 or 3 years. With a ship like New Jersey, that is a stationary, permanently moored museum ship, we can get away with once every 20 years. Now, fortunately, New Jersey is moored in fresh water, which extends that even further. Salt water is more corrosive to steel, whereas fresh water is more corrosive isn't the right term, but it rots wood faster. So if you have a wooden boat, keep it in salt water. If you have a steel boat, keep it in fresh water. But to answer your question, really 20, 30 years, you start to see corrosion. 40, 50 years, it becomes very difficult to repair the corrosion.
And because the river has a great current, you can't send the divers underneath.
Correct. Here where we are on the Delaware River, there's a significant current and a very small slack tide period. So doing any sort of underwater work with divers is extremely difficult for us. Ships that are in a sheltered anchorage and aren't just in a river have had much greater success with that.
So with the battleship New Jersey, you've got the last time it was taken out of land was 1990. So you're going to need to take it out to land again, I guess, pretty soon, or?
Honestly, it's past due the time that we should have taken her out of the water. If we weren't sitting in fresh water, we'd already have holes. So the museum is aware of this. We've already started looking at solutions. And one of the brilliant features of choosing to bring the battleship here to the Camden, Philadelphia area is that the dry dock where the ship was originally completed and where she got major maintenance in 1967 is less than 2 miles down the river. There are a very, very small number of dry docks which can handle the size of an Iowa-class battleship. So we're very fortunate that there is one within easy driving distance.
I know that is very fortunate. I mean, the Philadelphia Naval Yard is obviously a legendary naval yard where so many of the greatest ships have been built. How active is it compared to what it was 50 years ago?
Well, the Navy gave the yard to the city of Philadelphia, so it is being developed right now or redeveloped as a urban space. There's all sorts of businesses moving into the old gun foundries and whatnot. The Navy still maintains the propeller foundry there, but that's about it. 3 of the 5 dry docks are maintained by a pair of actual shipbuilding companies, but they're not the government, they're private businesses.
And by the way, if everyone can hear the work in the background, Battleship New Jersey, what exactly is going on, Ryan? You guys are putting in a new deck, right?
Yes, we are in the process of replacing the original teak wood deck with new teak. That's good for about 20 years in Navy use, about 40 years in a museum ship, and it's never been fully replaced. So they're currently, they've ripped up all the wood 2 stories above me, and they're chipping up all the rust under it so they can lay new wood.
Yes, I purchased some of the original deck myself from Battleship New Jersey's website. I encourage all of our viewers to check it out. It's really cool to own a piece of history, and I bought it for my daughter so that she can see real American history. I love visiting the New Jersey, and I'm excited to see her again soon. And I absolutely encourage all of our viewers to check it out. Ryan, how often are you guys open? 5 days a week, 7 days a week?
We are open 7 days a week. Right now, we are open from 11 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. And if you come on at 4, your ticket is still good for 2 hours, so you can stay until 6. We won't kick you off until then.
Awesome. Well, this was a lot of fun, Ryan, and we'll talk soon. Okay.
Good talking with you, Alex. See you next time.
Okay. Bye.